your own winter. So a lot of times our emotional states match the seasons and sometimes they don't. And we can have lasting winters within ourselves and we can have sporadic winters within ourselves where we need to kind of go in and retreat a bit and find the nourishment that's found inside instead of the energy that is springing outside. So, which are you in your internal states, your emotional states? Are you in an internal winter or are you in an internal spring or fall or summer? And with the onslaught, the ongoing intensity of what our world has to offer, can you balance the shootings and the virus and the racial injustices and all the climate problems and maybe more personal problems? Can you balance the weight of all those things, like the trees can hold the weight of some snow, with a deep inner resilience? So sometimes our inner winter gives us this capacity to be more resilient. So when you need to go inside and retreat, try not to think of it as a weakness or as a giving up, and think of it instead as a moment of replenishment so that you can move forth. So as you close your eyes and drop in, where is your internal resilience well? What feeds your resilience well? Does your practice feed it? Does relationships feed it? Does your breath feed it? Sleeping well? What are your bank deposits into your resilience well? And have you made enough of them recently? And if not, what can you shift? Is there a subtle little change? It doesn't have to be, I'm going to quit my job and move to an island in the Caribbean. What are some subtle little daily things that you can start cultivating for yourself? And let's start right now with your breath. How does a healthy breath impact your nourishment? How does it impact your ability to shoulder a lot of weight, to bend like a tree and not break? Feel into your breath. Can you experience the diaphragm and the ribs? Can you experience the sensation of breath itself, the actual prana, moving in, feeding you, and releasing? Can you melt through your face and relax through your eyes and soften through your jaw? Take all the little hidden pockets that we harbor tension, like a chipmunk harboring a nut in its cheek. Where's your pocket? Breathe into that space. Is your posture in a good place for good breathing? What can you adjust? And if you have trouble finding the breath, if this isn't nourishing to you, if you feel like impatient or wanting to get going, try breathing out a little slower. Let the nervous system have that reset where our parasympathetic system, the restful part of our nervous system that teaches us to relax, the exhales give some weight, some energy into that part of our nervous system. So perhaps your exhales are through some pursed lips if you need to use your mouth to slow your breath down. Maybe just a big old sigh feels good on your exhale. What is your belly doing? All right, and then as you're ready, Keep breathing. Try not to alter your good breathing habits as we move. Place your hands together. I'm so sorry about the noise. I'm going to fix it in just a moment. Place your hands together and bow in. Offer an intention. How are you today, and what do you need, and how can your practice support this? Okay, and then go ahead and release your hands and come onto your back. I'm going to fix this while you're heading down onto your mat. All right, so as you lie down, can you feel the sense of expansion through your joints, a sense of space through your body? Feel yourself lift your arms over your head and open up. And this is kind of just the opposite in your nervous system. It gives you a little rev, a little get up and go energy. So feel the goodness in that as well. All right, and then let's stretch the left side. Let's stretch the right side. Let's come into the awakening of your side bodies. All right, and then open your heart and cactus your arms out to the sides. So notice if your wrists tend to fall easily toward the floor, or if your wrists don't fall easily toward the floor. So just come take stock with how tense your chest muscles, your subscapularis muscles, and your shoulder blades feel. And take a deep breath. All right, and then stretch your arms and legs wide. Starfish open your body. And then exhale, bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit from side to side. Just feeling into the spine. How is your spine today? And then let's circle the knees a few times, just waking up across the pelvis, the sacrum, the low back. And let this not just be about warming some joints in your body, some muscles in your body, but noticing parts of your body, being aware, how are you today? Open your knees out wide and bring them back in. See the sensation in your hip joints. Feel into that sensation in your pelvis, your back. How is your breath interrelating with any movement you're doing? And then let's go ahead and put your feet down onto the ground, arms stretched out like a T, and let's windshield wiper our knees left and right. And open up into the sides of your body a little bit. Perhaps as your knees go right, you want to stretch the left arm out left and just see what kind of range and sensation you can get through your shoulders and your hips as you rock into a twist, side to side. And then starfish out your body again, deep breath. Exhale, head up this time, chin in, curl to a little ball. One more time. Open your body out, wiggle your fingers and your toes, roll your ankles and your wrists around while you're out here. Take another deep breath and squeeze all your muscles. Everywhere you can find, give a good squeeze to. And then exhale, draw your head in, all your air out, give a good squeeze, even your face squeeze. And then release your head down onto the ground. Roll over onto your right side, grab onto your left ankle and stretch your left quad. So I've been into this lately, so therefore you guys get to do whatever I'm into. So sorry about that. Hopefully you're into the same things I'm into. So let your knee stretch away from your sternum. See what it feels like as your knee stretches away from your sternum to lift your pubic bone toward your sternum. Lengthen your tailbone along that same line as the knee. Breathe into the quad and maybe pull your knee back just a little bit to find the hip flexors and tops of the quads a little bit more. Okay, and then come rolling back onto your back, knees to your chest, rock a little bit, and then roll right over onto your other side. Grab onto your right ankle, foot, pants, strap, whatever you're grabbing, and stretch your knee away from your heart. Feel the tailbone stretch away from the sacrum, or from the spine. See what it feels like to have that little bit of a pelvic tilt where the pubic bone lifts and the tailbone descends, not tucking, but just tilting. Stretch the whole femur bone, not just your knee, but your whole femur bone stretches away from the shoulders. Now pull that knee back just a little bit. See what's available in there while keeping the pelvis neutral.
And then relax and roll back onto your back. Bring your knees to your chest. Sway a little bit, roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So as we find our way onto all fours, find some cat cows. Such a beautiful way to begin any practice. Great way to feel into your spine, to notice what's available today. So just find the movement there. Broaden your shoulder blades, draw your shoulder blades toward each other, lift the tail, drop the tail, lift the head, drop the head. See what kind of full movement you have, including your skull, your shoulder blades, your rib cage, your pelvis. So let all the things that interact with the spine, all the joints that interact with the vertebrae, have some say in what you're doing here. Can you come back to that replenishment of the breath? Even this can be so replenishing in the body. Just simple movements can sometimes bring us home into a state of ease when we need some restoration. Swirl around your hips or sway through your sides. Wake up your body. Try not to have expectations of what we should be doing. Just feel what you are doing. And lift your left arm straight up in the air. Exhale and slide that shoulder down and open up between the shoulder blades. What does it feel like in the back of the heart right now? Can you breathe there? Can you relax your neck? Turn toward the floor a little bit with your gaze so that your neck is relaxed. All right, then inhale, arm all the way back up. Place the hand down onto the ground and change sides. Lifting that arm to the sky, slide the shoulder down, enjoy the space between your shoulder blades. Breathe into that space as best as you can. Feel that fascial space, that fascial tug and stretch. Let the neck be soft and relaxed. Inhale, lift that arm all the way back up to the sky again. Place the hand down onto the ground. Curl the toes under. But before going into dog pose, just curl the toes under and settle backwards. Stretch open the bottom of your feet. Maybe your ankles touch. Maybe your feet are hip width apart. Just see wherever you are. Broaden the bottom of your feet as best as you can. Just have a moment for your feet. And then when you're ready, come back up, smack your feet onto the ground. Just tap, tap, tap. Let that release, that stretch in your feet. And now curl under and come into dog pose. Extend through the spine. Feel the reach and length. Open things up. Feel the femur bones lift up and back. Feel the knees soften. See what can give in the pose. Maybe you want to pedal your feet and open up the calves and the hamstrings a little bit more. Maybe you want to move through your hands and lift one up and spread it back out. Lift the other and spread it back out. Where is your heart? Can you lift it toward the pelvis? Is the neck soft and relaxed? Hug your hands a bit toward each other so the strength comes from your torso, not just from laxity in your shoulder joints. Melt into the skull. What does it take to get you to relax your head in this pose, to relax your face, to come back into the breathing body? All right, and then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Fold in half. Halfway lift, so you can put blocks under your hands or hold the floor or your shins or thighs. Exhale and melt back down again. Feel your feet press into the big toes, the inner heels. Spread the bones of your feet out and ground through your outer feet too. Rise up when you're ready, lifting your arms, coming up to the sky. Open, maybe cactus your arms if this feels good. Maybe just spread your wings out to the side. Let your chest get some space and then release your shoulders down. Do a few shoulder shrugs here. Can you feel the shoulder blades move around on the rib cage? Can you move the rib cage? Are you able to go the other direction if you want? Are you able to feel that the ribs have some mobility in the body as well? It's not just the shoulder blades. All right, great. And then find yourself in Tadasana. Just breathe here now for a moment. Close your eyes, ground through your feet. That same dipping a little bit of a deposit into the bank. Find your breath. If you are not feeling resilient these days, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or fatigue or strain, what is within you to change? You can't change a lot. There's so much we can't change, but we can change how we choose to act and react. And we can choose our thoughts. We can choose the way we breathe. We can choose when we go to bed at night. Sometimes you can't always choose. Deep breaths, long, steady exhales. Inhale, open up the chest again, lean back, have a little back bend in the upper back here, stretch your arms open, and then bend your knees and float forward. Grab onto your elbows and have them have just a little bit of a tug. See if you can shimmy the rib cage away from the hips a bit more. Find that gap between ribs and pelvis. Relax your neck. Are you looking at the floor and tensing your neck? Relax your eyes and your neck. Inhale for a halfway lift with blocks or not. Exhale and melt back down again. Let's step our left foot back. So as we come into a lunge, plant your back knee on the floor. Decide whether you want to curl your toes under or lay your knee flat. Everybody's knee is a little different. If you can't weight bear on your back knee, a couple things to try is to put a blanket under your shin, or if that's still not enough, lift your knee up and curl your toes under and be in a lunge. Extend the heart forward. Feel into the hip flexor length. Notice if you're, if you sag, if it's easy for you to fall into this pose, especially if you're very flexible, it can be easy to just hang. See what you can do to not hang, to find strength. Press your front heel into the floor to activate your glutes a little bit more, your hamstrings. Press your heel and your knee toward each other to have a little activity in the hip flexor as you're stretching it. Rise up, bring your hands onto your knee. Feel the weight of your foot. Ground your big toe into the floor so that you're stable. And then when you're ready, lift your arms. Maybe they come up, maybe they go out, maybe your hands stay down. Maybe you need to lean forward a little bit for your back. So just sense into whatever upright posture your body's capable of having today. Great, and then let's release the hands down onto the ground. Bring your front foot back. Child's pose with the big anterior tilt of the pelvis. Drop some flexion into that hip you just opened. Notice if this is hard. If you just opened the left hip up, is it hard to compress it? Is going from one extreme to the other difficult, or does it feel good? Okay, we're going to come back up. Now let's bring our left foot forward and we're going to stretch the right hip flexors. So ground through your left foot. Place your foot, in line with the sit bone, a little wider than the sit bone, whatever feels good for your body. Put the blocks on any height that supports you. Notice if you are a hanger, if you just kind of fall into the pose. Stabilize. Not just your heel pressing into the ground, although that will activate your glutes, but feel your whole foot move into the earth to feel the underbelly of your leg work. So feel the difference. Let go of pressing your foot into the ground and notice you just lost the earth giving you something. So press in, feel the earth give something back, engage through the backside of your leg. Hug to the midline a little bit with your inner thighs, front heel and back knee moving toward each other. So there's a lot of muscular engagement before you lift up. And maybe your arms come wide. Maybe there's a different position for your body to take. See what's giving you the bank of your breath to deposit and deposit and deposit again and again. That long exhale. Let's go ahead and release the hands back down onto the ground. Hands on the floor, dog pose. Extend through the spine, femur bones lifting up and back, the sternum lifting up toward the pelvis. And then let's come forward into a plank and hold yourself steady. Integrate your core. Find how your core supports your back. Find how the sides are part of your core, those obliques. If you were in class yesterday, we did a lot of oblique work. So let's have a little hint of that. Turn your navel to the left, keeping your chest facing the floor. Come back to center. Turn your navel to the right, chest facing the floor. Come back to center. How's your breath? Put your knees down if you need it. Come all the way down to the floor. Take a deep breath. Open up low. Don't go very high first. Cobra pose. Just play into what a back bend feels like for you. Let's stabilize. Press your legs into the floor. Lift your pubic bone toward your navel. A little bit of glutes, but not a glute clencher. Okay, so find active glutes without overdoing the strength of your glutes. Let other muscles share. Take a deep breath in and lift up. Notice the space in your low back when you're engaged with your legs, with your core. Exhale and melt back down. And if you're not sure, let your legs be relaxed. Let your belly be relaxed. And push off your hands and notice the compression. Don't do that for very long. So find that stability. The legs are long, the legs are moving into the earth, the glutes engaged, the core engages. Inhale and rise up, shoulders down. Release back onto all fours. Come up, whatever feels good. Find some swirls in your spine, anything that releases some of the pressure of a back bend, and then find dog pose. Again, extending through your heart here, breathing well. When you're ready, lift your right leg up in the air. Feel your glutes work on both sides. So it's a little differently. The way your standing leg glutes are working is different than your leg in the air. Kick your leg in the air a little bit. Pulse. See what you can feel to get that glute max to turn on. And then when you're ready, stack open the hip. Lift it open. Stretch the hip flexors a little bit. Bend your knee. Deep breaths here. All right, and then square the hips. Stretch that leg back. Take a deep breath. Bring your foot forward. A full lunge. Knee is off the ground now. Rise up. Crescent lunge. Once again, decide where your body wants to be in space. Where is best for your back? Maybe leaning forward a little bit feels better for your spine. Where do you have access to your core best? If you lean way back, do your ribs pop forward and your belly loses its strength? Find that transverse abdominis. Okay, we're going to take a twist here. Bring your arms out to the side and only go as far as your body says go. Notice if you lose your big toe, ground into the big toe, press your heel, use your obliques on your exhale. It's okay to bend the back knee a little bit to help you keep stability in your pelvis and core. Drop your shoulders. Try not to let your traps do the work of your obliques. Inhale, rise back up. Place the hands down onto the ground. Back foot comes forward. Fold in half. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt again. Push off your feet. Rise up, bringing the arms to the sky. Touch your toes or put a block between your thighs. However you like to do chair pose, we're going to find our way into a chair. So if you tend to lean, if you're like, oh, I like this leg, I'm going to lean right into that leg. Back away from your depth and see if you can come into the pose. A lot of times we have a dominance and we sink into that dominance and then we shift our weight over once we're already in the pose. See if you can go down as evenly as you can, accessing all of your muscles in balance, left and right, as best as you can. If you're able to, lift your arms up so you start to firm up the back body a bit, feel those muscles that are needed for some back bending. This is a back bend. See if you can feel that in the thoracic spine, that there's some work going on there. Take the shoulder blade bottom tips and move them toward the lumbar spine. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Draw the femur bones back, a little bit of integration of the ribs. And then same, push evenly off your feet to come on up. Open your chest, fold forward, separate your feet. Step back to dog pose. Find your breath no matter what you're doing. Have a moment here, a pause in dog pose to feel that expansive inhale and the fullness of your exhale. Gravity helps our exhales in dog pose, so let gravity help you fully exhale. When you are ready, lift the left leg up in the air. Square hips at first, inner spiral left thigh. Feel your glutes kick in, wake them up. Breathe. And then when you're ready, stack open the hip. See what it feels like to not fall into the right shoulder, to not fall into the right hip. Lift the right shoulder. Lift the right femur bone up into the hip joint. Maybe your knee is bent in the air. Maybe your leg is straight. What's available for you? Square up the hips again. Bring that foot forward when you're ready. And then rise up. Come into crescent lunge. So have enough space. So if you need to, take your left foot out to the left more so that there's a lot of width and breadth available. You know, sometimes when you have a wide pelvis, it helps you to breathe better. Okay, so have any extension you want in your upper body. Your arms can go in a comfortable place. If you tend to really crunch into the low back, try leaning forward a little bit. Try pressing into that front foot. Integrate some more muscular energy. Feel the crown grow, the core engage, and then see what you can do to rise up without sinking into the low back. Okay, great, and let's place our hands out to the side and find your way into a twist. So you can have your hands on your hips too. You don't have to have your hands out to the side. Try not to go farther with your arms than your chest is going. Let your chest and arms be free. Drop the shoulders. Try not to let the traps do a lot of work for you. Hug into the midline with your inner thighs. Keep grounding that front heel. Your glutes might get fatigued. That's okay, they're so strong. I bet they can handle it. And then rise back up. Place the hands down onto the ground and come back onto all fours again. Swirl your spine around. See what it feels like. Swoosh your hips. Remember, if your wrists are not happy, you can always put your forearms on blocks. If your knees are not happy, you can always stand up and do this with standing with your hands on a piece of furniture. We're going to come into a spinal balancing pose. So take your right leg straight back behind you. Take your left arm out in front of you and feel the integration that lives in this posture. So even though we're doing opposite things with arm and leg, there's a centering to this. There's a drawing into the center body that's capable in this pose that can really help us integrate the muscles we need for core stability. So can you feel this? Can you feel it wrapping around your core? Can you feel how the back and the front muscles can support you in this posture? And then let's go ahead and place that hand and knee down onto the ground and switch sides. So take your left leg straight back behind you, your right arm out in front of you. Integrate. So sometimes we extend out through the hand, and sometimes we try to feel the foot and hand kind of hug back in. Not bending your elbow and knee underneath you, but just hug the limbs back into the core. Find this balance of stretching out and hugging in. Find the balance of the back body work and the front body work. The connection of the shoulder blades and the glutes on the back, the feeling of the core supporting you from the front. And then relax back down onto all fours in anterior tilted child's pose. So lift your sit bones high and wide. Draw the femur bones back deep into the joints. And if that's not comfortable, you just go as far down as what's available to you. All right, and then come off of that a little bit. Walk the hands forward. So we're coming into puppy pose. So as we let our chest move down to the ground, our hips stay high, so we're not dropping back towards child's pose. And as your chest comes down, try not to let your armpits fall to the earth as well. Sometimes it's nice to put a block underneath your forehead if the floor feels far away. Just see what's available to lift under the armpits and feel the thoracic spine open. Draw the femur bones back so there's a deep stretch without it really impacting a lot of compression in the lumbar spine. Okay, walk forward with your chest. Forearms are lined up. Right under, your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Take your feet back and come into a forearm plank. So, especially if you tend to be very chest strong and not very back body strong, it's easy to just kind of grit and round yourself into this pose. See what you can do to broaden the collarbones, to feel your heart open, to feel the crown and tail lengthen, to feel your shoulder blades move down the back a little bit, to integrate the core and the back body instead of just your chest doing so much of the work. Breathe here. How are your knees? Are they locked out? Can you soften? And then come to rest onto the ground. Pick up your feet and windshield wiper your knees left and right here. Finding some breath. Okay. Sphinx pose. Forearms still in front of you a little bit. Shoulders and elbows can line up, or your forearms can be a little forward. Experiment with what's going to allow you to not fall into the floor. Can you stretch your legs and move them into the earth? Can you engage your core and lift pubic bone to navel? Are your shoulders able to soften? Can you open the collarbones and chest without sinking into the lumbar spine? Feel a lot of work in the, you can hug your forearms a little bit toward each other so you can feel the serratus muscles engage on the sides of your body. All right, and then release and relax. Put your arms out, palms underneath your head. Pick up your feet and rock left and right. Deep breaths. Okay, last section of the forearms in that same position. We're going to come up into dolphin pose. So wrists, elbows, and shoulders line up. If you tend to cave toward the middle, try putting a block between your hands, and you can even put your palms facing the block. Sometimes a little external rotation of your forearms can help the shoulders stay in a neutral plane so they're not elbows out and internally rotated. So find the lift of your hips like dog pose. We're lifting up. Lift your sternum toward the pelvis. Try to lift your shoulders away from the ears. What does it feel like? Are you leaning back into the shoulder joints? Can you have a little movement forward under your armpits so that there's integration and not overdoing the stretch of your shoulder capsule? Lift the femur bones up. Walk your feet in another inch. See what that might feel like. Can you hug shoulders and thighs toward each other without straining your armpits, your shoulder capsules, really? So hug toward the midline with your forearms on the ground. Breathe. And then come down onto your knees and rest your arms back by your sides for child's pose. Anything you want to do with your legs. So your knees can be together or your knees can be wider apart. Breathe. Just pause and another breath into the bank of resilience. Notice when you're in your body, you're in the moment. Right? And this is another way to stay resilient, is to just keep coming home to now, instead of past, instead of projection to the future. All right, let's take a deep breath. Let's come to stand. Okay, so give your shoulders a little break for a moment. Let's come to stand up. You can shake your shoulders out if you want. Drop some weight into your right foot. Let's practice a little bit of balance here. Bring your right knee high into the chest. Lift up through your spine. Feel free to move your ankle around a little bit if it feels good. Feel the, a lot of times, if you look at me from the side, a lot of times when we bring our knee up, we tend to do this. We tend to push our pelvis forward and lean back. Try to take your thigh bone back so that you're really working to align instead of just lean into the joints to do this posture. Breathing. And then go ahead and place that foot down onto the ground. Change sides. Notice if your hip wants to hike out to the side, if your knee wants to lock out. Feel the integration, even if it makes you imbalanced and wobbly. Hug your hip in, soften your knees, spread out the bones of the feet. Feel the root in your foot to rise up through your whole body into your crown. Try not to lean back and push the pelvis forward. Take the thigh bone back. How's your breath? Okay, and then go ahead and relax. Inhale, arms coming up to the sky. Take a deep breath. Relax your arms, shake them out. Let's turn sideways on the mat. Okay. Have a little bit of movement the other way, just to open our hips. Feel the grounding of your femur bones. Come into triangle pose. If you don't like moving down with straight legs, you can always start with a bent knee and move your way up into triangle pose. So just see which way you prefer to come. If you tend to really lean and sink into the hip and sink into the knee, sometimes starting with a bent knee and then moving your way into a straight leg will prevent you from sinking. Okay, so just experiment with some different ways. Triangle pose is a tricky posture. Feel the grounding of your feet. Be as high up with your arm as you need to be so that your spine is long, that you have the roots of your feet without leaning deeply into that front hip joint. You don't want to fall into the hip. Root the foot down, lift the femur bone shaft all the way up into the hip. So instead of dropping down into the hip, lift the femur bone up into the hip joint. Open the chest, finding the breath. Stay rooted in the feet. Okay, come back up. Bend your knee now. Parsva Konasana. Open up your side body. Notice if the back hip likes to push forward. See if you can draw it back. Turn your back toes in as much as you need to balance the need for rotating that femur bone in. Feel any amount of extension. So if your knee bends a teeny bit, you can push off your foot to ground and spine length through your crown. Open up that front leg. Feel the roots. Feel your foot root into the earth. How's your breath? Relax your traps. And then come right back up, and let's find the same two poses over on the other side. So you decide whether you'd rather go into triangle pose with your legs straight, or whether you'd like to start with your knee bent and then straighten your leg a little bit more. Okay, so we're not hyperextending our knee. We're not leaning into our hip joint. We're instead leaning into the earth with our feet. Press into the earth. Rebound through your body so you have lightness. Lift the femur bone up into the hip joint. Feel your chest open. Try not to play tug of war in your pelvis. So let the back hip roll a little bit toward the front foot if you need to. See if you can prevent the need from opening up completely. Feel the roots of your back foot, maybe even a little softness in the knee there. What does it feel like? How's your breath? Some of the most important things to remember in this posture is your feet. If you can feel all four points of your feet grounding, you can manage your legs a little bit better than if you lose your feet. Soft traps. Let the shoulders go. All right, come on up. Bend your knee. Your elbow can come on your knee, or your hand can be on the block, either behind your knee or in front of your knee, whatever feels good. Once again, we don't have to open so wide across the pelvis. Let it be a little bit more neutral. Ground into your feet. Open up through the side body. Let the back knee soften a bit. Feel the traps. Let go. Find your breath. Those long exhales. Let's spin back. You might be facing the back edge of your mat, so find your way back to the front of your mat somehow and come into dog pose. Feel neutral. Neutral hips. Feel that return. Inner spiral so the sit bones widen a bit. Feel the hands reach up to the shoulders, reach up to the hips. Find the breath. Steady long exhales. Come forward into a plank. When you're ready, find your breath again. Lower yourself down to the ground. Take your legs a little bit wider and lift just your legs up. Wake up those outer glutes again. Feel your toes be neutral. You can try a slight turn out or a slight turn down. See what feels best, what gives you best activity in your outer hips. And then melt and relax. Spring your knees back to hip width apart and windshield wiper your knees left and right. Come onto your right forearm here. Now climb up. Remember that Sphinx pose feeling we had? See if you can feel that here with your forearm. And you might be lower. We don't have to come up high. We're going to reach back and grab our foot. If you can't grab a foot, grab your pant legs. If you don't have pant legs, grab a strap and put it around your ankle. Move your tailbone toward the knee. I talked a little bit about this earlier this week. If your knees, traditionally we try to keep the knee in line with the hip. Not everybody's knee likes this. Okay, this is the typical, quote unquote, typical alignment. Maybe your knee needs to break tradition and go a little wider. So experiment if you have pain in your knees when you do a posture like this. Sometimes it's easier to activate the glutes when your knee is a little bit wider. So just experiment for you. And then release and relax. And let's switch sides. Take the forearm in front of you, reach back and grab your left foot. If you are able, I'm sorry, your right foot. If you are able to keep the knee in line with the hip and you feel comfortable and good in your sacrum, your SI joint, and your knee, then great. Keep that alignment, okay? Work with balancing the glutes that have to turn on with the core, the transverse abdominis. How's your breath? If you have trouble, try ever so slightly taking your knee out a little bit further and then experiment. What's available to you there? So we don't want to compress our SI joint, which oftentimes bringing the knees out wide can do, but we want to have the capacity to turn the right muscles on and feel comfortable in our joint spaces, including our knees. So experiment. Don't assume one angle is right for every moment of your life and for every body. Okay, relax that leg down. Come back up. Feel some swirling through your spine. Breathe your way here. Okay, let's come up to stand. If you want to move through dog pose, great. If you're skipping a couple dog poses here and there, just come up to stand. Okay. You might need a strap for this, depending on your quads. If you've needed a strap up to this point for a couple of the quad stretches we've done, you'll need it now. We're going to stand rooted into our right foot and pick our left foot up. Now, oftentimes the knee moving out to the side is just a pattern of trying to balance. So, kind of like tipping like this. And this is not the knee moving out to the side that I really am talking about. So that when we say draw the knee toward the floor and keep it in line with the hip, this can be helpful to align our spine instead of allowing ourselves to tip. However, once you get here, if you need balance, hold on to something. If you get here and you have pain in your knee, try to see if you can get the alignment of the rest of your spine and perhaps just let your knee come out to the side a little bit. It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be balanced with your whole torso tipping. Find the kick of your foot into your hand. Reach the arm up, take a breath, and start to move into dancer pose. This knee you're standing on, let it bend. You can let it bend a lot if you want. You can have this pose be a very bent knee pose, but at the very least, have it be soft so you're not locking out your joints. And remember, this pose can look like this. It can be right here, it can be 2 inches forward. It does not have to be all the way forward for this to be a good pose, okay? How's your breath? All right, let's release and place our 2 feet on the ground. Close your eyes for a moment. If you don't like balanced postures, if you're like, oh, your brain starts to get jumbled like sea foam, see if you can let anything that you need to do right now help you ground. Okay, what's your breath doing? And then find the roots moving down through your left foot and feel the rebound. So can you root to rise? Do you have that ability to yield? Feel the 4 points of your foot. The knee is soft. We're gonna, and a lot of times if you can't reach back, if you're all contorted, try picking your knee up and grab your ankle from the front and then bring your knee back. Balance might be tricky, so feel free to put your hand on a wall or on a piece of furniture. If you tend to lean your hip out or lock your knee, that's the first work. Keep the hip in and the knee soft. Ground your foot. Then decide as you kick your foot back and you reach your arm up, are you aligned? Do you have pain in your knee? If you do, ever so slightly try taking the knee out to the side. Still working with the alignment of your spine. Move forward into dancer pose in whatever way feels nice for you. So you don't have to go far for this to be a beautifully challenging balancing pose. Okay, so are you grounded? Are you rooting to rise? Is your knee that you're kicking, in the air happy? Okay, push your foot into your hand a little bit. Activate your glutes. Activate your core. Soften your traps. Okay, and then let's come back out of the pose. Shake out your hands. Maybe, wiggle your body around. You can bounce anything that feels good. Take a deep breath. In and out. Grounding yourself, yielding into the earth, feeling that sense of both stability and freedom, freedom in the breath. Okay, take a deep breath, open the heart up, lean back if it feels nice to do so, and then fold forward. Relax your spine. Inhale for a halfway lift. Take your feet wider, maybe even wider than the mat, and come to squat. So drop your hips down. If you have, something that isn't happy here, go higher until knee, ankle, or hip, whatever was unhappy, gets happy. Okay, so try not to have joint pain. Start to know the difference between muscular effort, pain of work, versus pain of injury. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. So just practice feeling into yourself. Squatting down, the feet are so important. Root them to feel the rebound of strength through your body. All right, we're going to put our hands down onto the ground, walk back to dog pose. Last pass through vinyasa, come forward into a plank. Okay, this will be our last plank. So hold on steady, breathing. Let's put our knees down onto the ground and slowly find your way to the floor. I'm going to give you two choices here. So if this pose, if bow pose is not good for your knees or not good for your back, flip over and do a bridge, because bridge is a lot more control for how your body moves in space. But if you're comfortable, grab onto your feet. Okay. Move your shoulder blades down the back. Notice if your body wants to fall into the floor. How can you combat the lumbar spine sink? Okay, integrate the core. Find the tailbone. Engage your thighs as they stretch. Can you have a flex stretch going on? Because you're flex stretching those quadricep muscles, you might need to experiment with the knees going just a teeny bit wider away than the midline or than the hip line. This is not the traditional way of doing it, but experiment. If it makes your knees happier and you are not compressing your SI joints, this is perfectly fine to do. So use your glutes, okay, without compressing. You don't want to have so much work in the glutes that we smash our sacroiliac joints up. Find some space, take a deep breath, and lift your body up. Where do you want your knees to be in space? What's best for your SI joint? Experiment as you move your knees an inch or here or there. How do your SI joints feel? Keep the neck long. Breathe into your body. And then relax and melt back down to the floor. Turn head one side or the other and let your feet swish left and right. Let's go ahead and find our way back onto all fours. Okay, so don't go back to child's pose just yet. Swirl around in your body, move your hips, move your spine, breathe. And then we're going to come down onto our backs. Neutral legs, so feet flat on the ground, open across your chest. We're going to do one more back bend here passively in just a moment, but I just want you to feel the neutral spine for a moment. And then roll over onto your side and grab a blanket. You can either flat accordion fold it, like doop, 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 right, so that it's skinny, or you can roll it. So you decide, do you like flat surfaces or rolled surfaces underneath you? But it's a pretty skinny roll. You might need another blanket for your head or a block for your head. You experiment. Okay, so we're going to put this between our shoulder blades. Maybe you need some support underneath your head, so you can feel free to have another bit of support underneath there. The knees can stay bent or the legs can straighten, whatever feels good, and then experiment with what you want your arms to do. Perhaps lift your arms straight up first and then experiment. Do you want to lift them over the head? Do you want to cactus them? Do you want them straight out like a T? Do they feel better a little bit lower? Do you want to open one chest at the side of your chest at a time? You can open up and have the other hand just cross over onto your chest and turn your head and then switch. Okay, so experiment. You can also grab onto your elbows with your opposite hand and stretch your arms up over your head. So just experiment with what is the action that feels best for your body, your shoulders, your breath, your chest. Find just the sweet spot. There's so many choices. Can you open the heart? Whatever you're doing, can you feel that you're not pulling away from the bolster, but integrating with the bolster underneath you? So you're still breathing back body. We're not trying to lift back body, like suck it up off the bolster. See if you can expand in all directions in your chest. Relax your throat. If you're banking your breath as your resiliency coin, having an open chest is a great way to keep the breath moving. All right, let's go ahead and relax. Bend your knees if they're not already bent, and then roll over onto your side. Get that bolster out from underneath you and come to lie down on your back. Okay. Knees bent, feet on the floor. Let your body settle back into a neutral spine. Resist the urge to bring your knees to your chest just yet. Find your breath here. Relax something. What are your shoulders doing? Can you let them go? Let's lift up the hips and scooch them over to the right. And now bring the knees a little higher toward the chest and drop them left. If this is a really big twist for you, put a bolster, a blanket, a block underneath your shins. Open up your chest. Turn your head to the right. How's your breath now? Okay, and now lift your knees back up. Come back to a neutral place in your spine. Have a breath in that neutral spine. And then scoot your hips over to the left. Knees come up and drop them right. If they can't touch the floor easily, put a block or a blanket underneath your shins or knees. Take a deep breath. Open the left chest. Turn the head to the left. Let the breath help the twist. Let the twist help the breath. All right, come back up, back to neutral spine. Now you get to decide, how's your back feeling? So there's a couple of, choices here. If you're feeling a little vulnerable in your back, I would not go right into happy baby pose. Instead, I would try grabbing one knee into the chest at a time. And when you grab one knee into the chest at a time, you can bend the other knee and put your foot on the floor, or you can have that leg straight. If you're kind of like in the middle, where your back feels okay, but happy baby pose, you need a little something before it, just bring your knees to your chest and experiment with widening your knees out and bringing them in like we often do in the beginning of class. Just preparing for a forward fold a little bit to counter the back bending. And then when you're ready, go ahead and grab your feet if you're ready. You may never be ready for a happy baby pose. And then feel free to work with rocking. You can feel yourself rock from side to side. How is your breath here? Can you melt the skull? And then release the legs. Grab your strap, 2 feet in the strap. Lift your legs straight up, letting your glutes and your hamstrings stretch. Feel the extension of the spine. So this axial extension. Move your femur bones away from your shoulders. Feel the breath move through you. Relax the shoulders down. Soften the knees. Try not to lock the knees out. Have a little micro bend in there. And then relax and melt the legs onto the ground. If you need to, you can do a little bit of windshield wipering, knees bent, feet on the floor, and just rock your whole spine, or at the very least your hips, finding some neutral, finding some ease, and then we're eventually going to find Shavasana. Experiment. You may need, after back bending, sometimes it's hard to lie flat. So you might need to put your calves up on a couch today or a chair. You might need a bolster or blankets underneath your knees. So experiment with whatever is going to help you. Sometimes I like to move into child's pose for a moment. And sometimes I take a child's pose with a bolster underneath me. Okay. And do that for a moment before Shavasana. So however, remember, this is your practice. This is your body. This is your mind, your spirit, your emotional states, your breath. So every day is different. And the more we learn to trust that we know what we're doing, because our body is feedback loop of information, then we can stray a little bit off the path and explore. Does this make me feel good, or does that make me feel good? And the more we are in touch with the sensations of our body and how our breath moves, the more we can trust those little getting off the beaten path. So fall into Shavasana. Now you really get to fall. Throughout our practice, we try not to fall so much, right? We try to support. What can you do to let the earth do all the supporting now? You don't have to self-support at all in Shavasana. It's your opportunity to completely give yourself over. Where are your little chipmunk pockets? Where are you holding? Is there any storing of tension going on that you don't need? Can you filter that through with breath? Your breath is your very best thing to help you come into that state of ease. So let's put a few deposits in the resiliency bank again. When you exhale, not only slow it down, but feel your whole body exhale, your whole body give way to the earth. Can the inhales feel nourishing, supportive, replenishing? Unwind any tension, cut the knots anywhere you can, and melt into the earth.
Let's begin to deepen our breathing again. Invite some movement. What does your back need? What does your breath need? And let's find ourselves coming onto our side as you're ready. Use your arms to sit yourself upright. Take a moment to offer our practice, share your energy, send forth your love, your care to another. Namaste.